All right, everybody, I am back with a brand new movie review. I just got back from seeing The Joker 2, Folie, Deux, and I can't tell you how happy I am at this very moment that the movie is finally over. All right, where do I even start with this movie? First of all, the only reason that this movie exists is because the first Joker film made over $1 billion. That's the only reason. I kind of feel like what I'm feeling like at this stage is that James Gunn basically came in and put an end to everything. And I'm going to talk more about this in my video, my DC update tomorrow, but Todd Phillips wants nothing to do with DC at this stage. He's done. He's come out and said that this is it. There will not be a third Joker film. He's done in this universe. He's not coming back. And so I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing because this movie, wow. What the heck? First of all, this movie clocks in at about 2 hours and 18 minutes, and it feels like 2 hours and 18 minutes. I went with my wife. We both had almost the exact same feeling when we left. We were glad it was over. First of all, out of all of the songs in the film, it's billed as a a musical, but it's a poor musical, okay? A lot of the songs are nonsensical, and towards the end of the film, there are a couple of the songs where you're just like, oh, geez, let this movie end. You're just done with it. You're just done with it. You want to be finished. You want to be out of there. And it's a shame because we have Joaquin Phoenix back as the Joker, Arthur Fleck. You have Lady Gaga in here as Harley Quinzel, who becomes Harley Quinn. You have Todd Phillips back as the director. It looks like they have the same production team. Like, this movie, it's mind-boggling because this movie, first of all, had 4 times the budget of the first. And this film had great acting. It was well-directed, high production values, poorly executed. Poorly executed. In fact, in what happens at the end, and I'm not going to spoil anything here, although I am going to talk about a big spoiler at the very end. And when I get ready to talk about that, I'm going to tell everybody to log off if you don't want to know anything about the film. But, my gosh, the story wasn't even that bad. Even with how it ends, my wife and I looked at each other, and we're in the car, and we're like, it's not that it was a bad story. It's how it was executed. This was poorly executed. Great story. Great acting, great production values, great directing. Poorly executed. Poorly executed. And it's crazy that you have all of these things right, but it comes out so wrong. There were definitely things that could have been trimmed in the film. It should have been much shorter. And then there are other things that should have been expanded upon. What I envisioned in my head for Arthur and for Harley was way different than what we got on screen. And that's not my gripe with it. It's just what I had in my head was more interesting than what they actually did. And I'm not upset what they did, but the movie is boring. I was sitting there just tossing and turning in my seat, waiting for this movie to end. It was very nonsensical in some areas. The first half of the film is him being in, Arkham Asylum, and then you have the other half, which is being, they build it as a courtroom drama, but I wouldn't even call it that. It's just very weird. There are some really great moments in the courtroom, though, I will tell you that. And it's interesting what they do, and I would tell people going into this, pay attention to some of the characters in the background, because there are some interesting things that are going on that I even noticed without even, knowing what was going to happen at the end. And so let's talk about my score on this film. It just boggles the mind just how everything that was right and it turns out so wrong. Like I don't think I've ever been this frustrated with a film like this where everything was in place and you just didn't execute. And I did a video earlier talking about some people are speculating that this is an FU to the fans. And I feel like that's what's going on. I feel like every time Warner Brothers starts off something great, they come in and blow it up. For what? Why? Why can't you just keep going? Keep giving the fans what they want. Instead, you get a result like this. And I feel sorry for Todd Phillips. Man, Joaquin Phoenix put his heart into this. Lady Gaga, I mean, she could have been in more of it, honestly. She should have been in more of it. But it's a nonsensical way of telling the story. It just is. It just is. So my score at the end of the day, I give this 2.5. I almost want to say 2. 2.5 out of 5. I don't hate it. I don't love it. I will never watch it again. And I love the first one. My wife and I both love the first film. It's a classic. This, no. All right, now I want to talk about this next part. So if you don't want to know anything else, you can log off now. I want to talk about the ending and what some people speculated, and I'm going to say why it's not true. So for those who have seen the film and you guys know what happens at the very end, that Arthur Fleck is not really the Joker. Someone else kills him and becomes the Joker. And the guy in the background, you can hear him cut the sides of his face, like what Heath Ledger, the scars that he had in The Dark Knight. So some people were assuming that this was a prequel to the Dark Knight trilogy, which it's not. And I'll tell you why. You also had in this film, you had the prosecuting team being led by Harvey Dent. Pretty young guy. And if they would have just left it at that, yeah, you could have assumed that maybe this goes into the Dark Knight trilogy. But Harvey Dent gets his face kind of messed up in the film during one of the courtroom scenes. And I'm not going to say how or why. If you haven't seen it and you're curious, I want to leave it as spoiler-free as possible. But yeah, that's where we stand at this stage. I just don't understand how Warner Brothers can fumble this so badly. Like, what is going on down there? They have no quality assurance down there. None whatsoever. Like, this is crazy. It's crazy how they will give you something amazing and then yank it away so quickly. You had it with Superman 1 and 2. You had it with, Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, Zack Snyder's Justice League, and then you pull it away. You had the Joker 1, and then you pull it away. Like, what the crap? What the crap, people? I don't get it at this stage. It's turning into it's just a joke at this point. I just think Warner Brothers has fractured the fan base so badly that there's no fixing this at this stage. I just don't see it being fixable. I just don't. All right, guys, so there's my review on the Joker Folie Deux. If you guys have seen it, sound off below. Man alive. And if you haven't seen it, I really can't recommend it. All right, guys, we'll see you on the next review.